All right. Greetings. Welcome all to Dorsey's Resource. This is the original channel, and the topic of this video I'm going to discuss is called Major Temporal Marker for Webbot Hit from Clif High's Alta report. I wanted to discuss pretty much the topic is going to be Major Temporal Marker from Clif High's Webbot report. Those of you all, if you're not familiar with it, I've been a long time follower of a channel by the name. Many of you are probably not going to be familiar with it. The channel will go by the name JSNIP4. Literally, if you spell it out, the letter J S N I P, the number 4, JSNIP4. I have been a long time listener for years, and similar to my channel, he had been shadow banned and censored by YouTube. He actually is on a completely whole new channel. Believe currently. I meant to check some of his latest updates, by the way. But I wanted to discuss. I believe he would do like updated videos every now and then for his subscribers that were familiar with the Alta report. He was one of the pioneers. In case many of you all don't know, I explained this to a friend of mine that introduced Clif High to YouTube and other big name content creators, in my opinion. JSNIP4, I saw, that's how I found out about who Clif High originally was before Clif High started doing a lot of interviews on YouTube, by the way. The reason I'm doing this video on this particular channel, I feel I have a lot more subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, I have a completely entirely new channel, so make sure you go over, subscribe to @Dorsey's Resource 873. It's entirely completely different channel that's separate from this channel. If you haven't done so, it should be in the description box. I put the link just to give you all a heads up. Got some action-packed videos over there. So I may do a video over there as well covering this, but I didn't want to be before you all that long. I just wanted to discuss a temporal marker has been hit. Those of you all who are not aware, Clif High, give a little background. He mentioned he used to work for Microsoft. He was a computer programmer. I believe he's now retired. He lives with his wife, I think in Canada or somewhere. So once again, he has a background in IT technology. He's really smart. He invented a computer system, an algorithm that could pick up or could predict future outcomes, future events. I've heard of systems like this from major corporations, allegedly. For those of you all who get into stuff like this, I know a lot of people don't maybe not pay attention or have their eyeglasses on. But once again, he mentioned in the past he used to work for Microsoft. I believe he worked maybe for some other companies as well. He was a computer programmer. He invented a computer system that could he could put current data in. He broke that down some years ago, how it kind of worked. He would take data from social media and things. It's amazing how the universe works when you understand quantum physics. If you ever studied quantum physics, different types of technology, different types of science. He's a really, really brilliant guy, and JSNIP4 had him on his channel before I noticed a lot of other YouTubers that brought Clif High on before he became really popular, even amongst a friend of mine that's in the emergency preparedness community had shared with me. Then I found out someone that he was close to, who I know personally as well, was familiar with Clif High and the work that he's done. So I know in certain genres, certain disciplines, certain subcultures, a lot of people may not know, but he's amongst a certain community. A lot of times people amongst the crypto community, because Clif High is also credited, just to give a little more background. He mentioned or gave predictions that silver, according to his data sets, Webbot report down the road, sometimes it couldn't predict the particular year, exact moment. So he would give it a name if before you had an actual hit. A Webbot hit means when the prediction has already been interpreted. Sometimes the different predictions are vague, by the way. So sometimes for different events, different circumstances that might happen, it may not come out as clear. Sometimes JSNIP4 would do his best. He would read the report, the Alta report, and try to interpret it for his audience and say, I think this is going to happen. It's like a prognosis. or like a doctor trying to diagnose a particular problem or they may have identified. So sometimes it would be right on the money, at other times it would be vague, and this report would include things that would happen in the future. By the way, or you would see indications of it with previous years. So the reason I'm discussing this, he made a previous mention, and I'll let you all fill in the pieces. He said before major problems were going to start, I can't remember specifically. He was a guest on Jason at Four's channel, but remember that Jason at Four's original channel was terminated by YouTube. So I was able to download, I still do have some of those videos archived, but years ago, all of the videos that he basically Jason at Four interviews he did, they've basically been deleted when Jason at Four got his new channel. I think he mentioned he didn't have some videos backed up. Some people had his videos and I think shared it with them. By the way, but to make a long story short, Clif High would do interviews on his channel. He would interview Clif High. That's how I was aware. I was amazed by it. And his data sets predicted, even though this has not occurred yet, predicted that the price of silver would potentially rise one day, allegedly to $600 per ounce. There will be allegedly moves per day by once it reaches past a certain threshold. But there's going to be a process it goes through before that. He kind of explained. I won't, expound on that. That would be for probably another video. I have kind of touched on it before very briefly. He also made mention that Bitcoin would hit $100,000 and there would be parties around Christmas time or something. I'm not saying that this is going to be the year. I don't know, but it looks like when I've heard him do recent videos in the past, like let's say last year and more recent times, he would explain to the people interviewing him. He said, "We're here now." Actually, his data sets also show that once silver hit $600 per ounce and Bitcoin hit over 100,000, he also made mention to his audience and the guests listening. He said, "You may not like the world around you," meaning things are going to get really bad, which is already happening, that people are going to be struggling. There's going to be potential food shortages, other indications. And his Webbot report, Alta report, it was also referred to as, would describe the type of information. And when we were getting closer to a potential Webbot hit, that's why I titled the video in relation to where I believe personally a major temporal marker from Clif High's Webbot report is occurring right now as we speak. And what I'm getting into actually is he made mention there's a music someone in the entertainment industry. He said before these problems started, believe before Bitcoin hit 100,000 or silver hit 600 per ounce, he said there was going to be something. He couldn't make it out, but he gave an interpretation because he would give interpretations, and said his data sets were having reports that he didn't have a name, that someone in the music or entertainment industry, there was this information, this stuff was going to start to come out before these other problems would hit. And around January of the particular year afterwards, the price of silver would start to go up. Then he further gave other timelines in regards to silver towards spring of that particular year, that it would be even worse, that the dollar is losing its purchasing power. He talked about hyperinflation in some of these reports. And I actually still have, in case you're wondering, by the way, some of these old videos. I see someone in the chat I want to acknowledge. Tony Benson Mahuka said, "Aloha, greetings to you. Thank you for joining." So to further expound upon, I personally think I've been hearing this stuff has come out recently with the entertainment music mogul, Sean P. Diddy Combs. By the way, some called Love. I believe he changed his name. He also rebranded Bad Boy. I've been paying attention to that. A lot of stuff is coming out. So I wanted to say, I think that this is a major temporal marker for some of the things I'm hearing about for those who follow the cryptocurrency. A lot of people in the cryptocurrency community or certain genres or demographics are aware of who Clif High is, because he predicted in his data sets that Bitcoin would not only hit 100,000, that it would supersede and even one day even go as high as potentially over 200,000. And there's been other analysts who have forecasted that, predicted, made those predictions as well, such as Bo Pony, who I'm an avid listener of, very fan of his work. I love Bo Pony. I'll even go to Rumble, by the way, because I know some of the other people that used to be on this platform that were basically canceled or blacklisted. Obvious reasons. I won't go into all the details. That certain individuals, it's in their best interest to try to cover up some of this type of information, because a friend of mine, for example, said he noticed, if you all remember, when that scandal with Robinhood took place, when that GameStop stock was going up, the store GameStop, people had held stock in it. And I've never had Robinhood. I've never purchased any stock before. I had cryptocurrencies and precious metals, of course, but I never gotten the stocks yet. Something that I was looking at 2 years ago, but there's so many different things, different types of investments. But to show you, I pay attention. I have my eyeglasses on, and there was a scandal that happened some years ago where it started off as Reddit. You can read up on it or look up. They called it a short squeeze, where some people had planned to attack a hedge fund or something that was tied in with this. And with it exposed as the app Robinhood, or the people that control Robinhood, when people were holding this specific GameStop stock, it started skyrocketing and going up, which many people expected. There was another stock as well. People were talking about AMC stock, but mainly the GameStop stock. They forced people to sell it. One guy had complained, or several different people, after, let's say, it was going up. It went up well over, I heard, into the three-figure range before it hit close to 1,000, but they were making people sell it around 300, 600, according to different reports. And people were very upset that a lot of people had started to boycott Robinhood. So I tell this reoccurring story of a good friend of mine about this, because I know he has that app, and he's shared with me. I've shared some of my private wallet with him and cryptos, and he shared with me how it worked, and he was encouraging me, and I was telling him what I know about, even though I've never invested in stocks, very similar to what he knows. When I was putting them up on cryptocurrency, what he told me with that GameStop story, he says that let him know, when that scandal took place, that he said he felt the powers that be didn't want a lot of people to become wealthy or rich. They wanted to destroy, of course, the wealth transfer. They don't want some of these types of things to take place. So he said that was indication to him that there was major interference that was taking place. And I said, that's a good point. I'm glad you're aware. After all these years, he did admit to me. He apologized when I was warning him years ago how they used the banking system as a weapon. And there's some things I can kind of go into details, but it's no need to sound like I'm crying over spilled milk or bring up old things, because we buried the hatchet on certain things. But he did admit to me that I was right on certain things. And I don't always get it right, guys. I don't know everything. I give my way in, but he tells me that, when I bring this up, that they do watch, that he pays attention more so now, that the banking system was heavily manipulated where I was warning him, which he didn't understand. Now he really gets it, because he also studies Grant Cardone. He's a student of Grant Cardone as well. That's another thing I know people make money from. I haven't really got into real estate. I would have liked to. I have a friend of mine that I've been talking with, who's been doing that for years, who knows how to do quite a bit, who's very skilled at that. Actually, a couple people I know, but one in particular knows how to do basically a lot of the handyman work, leg work, where not only he can buy and flip houses, you name it, he can do everything that's required. If he was, like, say, a landlord, he knows how. I was just amazed, even at the age that he's at. I commended him, where he has so many skill sets. So he knows how to do plumbing, drywall, electrical. Found out he laid a carpet down, tile work, you name it. He can basically build houses, everything from the ground up. So he can do that as well. But he knows the kind of the securities aspect, and he actually also had a background. I won't go into who he is, but multi-talented. It's in the securities, and I talked with him about it. He mentions how it's one of the things he was sharing with me years ago when I was kind of pushing it off. I didn't understand it at the time, and he was telling me, you should have get a house instead of an apartment years ago, because I always thought, with homes, you still got to pay property taxes, and it varies in different cities other than just a mortgage. But I didn't realize, generally speaking, a mortgage in certain places is a lot cheaper than paying rent, by the way, in the long run, uh, or whatnot. Some people may debate over that. It may depend on what places you live at, because different cities, the cost of living is different. Like California and New York, it's going to be extremely different in those places compared to places around the country. That's also why a lot of people are moving, by the way. Then different taxes vary in different states. Like I lived in Florida at one time. Certain states don't have a state tax, but the way they make up for it, their grocery prices might be high, or their cost of living might be higher in other areas. Like certain places, they may manipulate the cost of car insurance, or their gas prices might be higher. So they find a way to kind of even things out and make it hard for. It's real weird, but certain places are definitely extremely high when it comes to the cost of living. Just to give a brief example, you already know California and New York. So enough said. I believe even when I stayed with my cousin in DC, I can tell their cost of living has gone up. And then I've heard Florida recently, cost of living has jumped up astronomically in Florida, by the way. And those are like tourist destinations too. A lot of the places I just named where a lot of people visit, or entertainment, fashion capitals, and capitals in other regards, subcultures or communities. They're also capitals of or headquarters, those type of places. Atlanta or parts of Georgia, I hear similarly. Rents have skyrocketed. Well, I'm going to acknowledge some of the people in the chat before I get back on the topic and shut the video down. Abe says, Shabbat Shalom, Brother Dorsey. Appreciate you for joining. Said Robin Hood was robbing the hood. Yeah, I agree. Definitely. That's why I told that story. Edgar Rio says, watch Dumb Money, the movie. Okay. Have to check that out. I have never heard of it before. Says Edgar Rio says, this is just the beginning. Oh, yeah. And Abe says, what is the temporal marker from Clif High that's been hit? Okay, I think if you've heard about this entertainment music mogul that goes by the name Sean Diddy Combs, or he's also has the name Love, which I heard he's legally changed his name, or part of his name. There's some things that took place. If you heard not too long ago, there was a former girlfriend and artist that he had signed some years ago, allegedly by the name of Cassie, or some may say pronounced Casey, that filed a lawsuit in the state of New York, if you're not familiar with it, on a Thursday. Not too long ago. I'm just kind of lost with the weeks. I can't remember if it was exactly last week or the week before. And the very next day, I found out before midnight in federal court, Diddy had settled the suit for an undisclosed amount. But there was damning information, because I had saw vloggers pick it up, and I had heard information prior to it. Even though I don't really cover topics like this, I could. And I was thinking about it down the road. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys want to hear stuff like this, to give you a background. And to make a long story short, there's been more recent reports that have come out where I heard that the Grammys couldn't really cancel Diddy, but the way they had to do it, I heard, is certain other artists that said they don't want to be seated with him. And I don't know when the current Grammy Awards come up. I just heard there was some other award show that took place. I can't keep up as much as I used to. I do love music, by the way. I'm a big fan of music, R&B, rap, gospel, and I do get into alternative, but not as much. I mostly listen to R&B, rap, and gospel. Other genres like alternative and stuff, not as much. But every now and then you might catch me listening to Linkin Park, or some other stuff, Nirvana or Goo Goo Dolls, or some hits from them, or like vague stuff. But I mostly just, in terms of music. But I keep up. I do have my eyeglasses on, and this opened up a whole can of worms, because I found out she filed this suit before the survivors lawsuit, where governor was put into place by the New York governor temporarily. It expired November 24th of this year, so it had to be filed in a certain amount of time, a certain time period. So I heard the rapper 50 Cent, aka Curtis Jackson, made a comment during that time period. he said he should have settled it privately, which I heard the original amount he offered 800,000 to her. That wasn't enough, but I heard it's rumored that the undisclosed amount somewhere were 8 or 9 figures. I added up. Some people are saying uh, the undisclosed amount is rumors that it was at least 100 million allegedly, but we don't know because it settled. P Diddy's lawyers for his Bad Boy Entertainment or whatever it's called, they rebranded the name. I found out stated that this isn't an admission of guilt, but a lot of what do you call vlogs on YouTube sites, celebrity gossip sites have spoken about the story. Some of you all might be familiar with, some of you all might not, because I understand my channel is a mixture of different genres of people come to get information. By the way, they may not come necessarily to hear about this stuff, but the reason I titled this video "Major Temporal Marker for Webbot Hit" from Clif High's Alta report is I do believe that this, he mentioned previously to Jason at 4 in a video, or Jason at 4 when he went over, he said there was going to be someone in the entertainment industry, from what I remember. And it kind of, and I remember it because I have a good memory, whether it was music or movies. Now I know, at first I thought it was R. Kelly some years ago. I felt we were getting closer because at first, you already know, R. Kelly's already locked up. And I heard other reasons. Diddy also settled this lawsuit in a astronomical, really fast amount of time that people said they had never seen nothing like this before, where the suit was settled the very next day. Literally right before I noticed, I got the word before midnight, but a friend of mine told me him and his wife hadn't heard, actually didn't know about it. And I kind of wired him up on it. I was like, wow, so it's stuff coming out. There's people at the Grammys, because I heard Diddy can sue them if they outright say he can't come. But it's some artists that said they don't want to be seated by him. So the blowback, or from the cancel culture, is really tremendous. Like if you remember what happened to other people with different scandals when stuff comes out. I hear the charter school that he was partnered with in the Bronx severed ties with Diddy. He's just recently stepped down as chairman of Revolt that had came out earlier on. Macy's had severed ties with his Sean John clothing line because certain brands, people said they don't want to be associated, even despite he settled this. But to a lot of people, they felt by him settling the suit so fast that this is a form of admission of guilt. And those of all us that really keep up, or you're in the entertainment industry or the gossip or stuff like that, from our opinion, kind of knows or has ideas, because word travels out there. You have many whistleblowers, bodyguards, former bodyguards that are speaking out. I heard someone potentially may be coming out soon that used to do bodyguard work that feels like Diddy, left him hanging. He kind of, is giving out money to hush people up. It's even allegedly that his former wife, Kim Porter, that he allegedly has come out and reports recently that he paid someone to remove her information off Wikipedia. So, because you got nowadays, people don't trust just the mainstream media anymore. They want to check with people and regular everyday lives, because so you have now what's called like citizen journalists, for people that don't just trust. But there was very damning information when the lawsuit was first filed. I think the morning of that Thursday or whatever, after Casey filed the lawsuit before the New York Survivors Act deadline, I told a friend of mine I saw damning reports from ABC World News, morning news, CBS Morning, and they had political and legal experts on, were saying that Diddy was in kind of like a catch-22 situation too. By the way, if you look at it from his perspective, they say he's now a billionaire. Of course, allegedly, that it appears as though that chunk has been cut into, because I heard it's been alleged reports that he had to liquidate a lot of assets quick to get this settled, that it was a very large amount, because Casey originally offered like 800,000 into her camp. It wasn't enough. I heard she's married now. There's also been new reports coming out from someone I follow, a channel, another channel, where the sister says that Casey's putting her parents under witness protection because she fears Diddy may try to retaliate, or has in the past, by the way. So this stuff gets really deep. I kind of get into stuff like this kind of to take my mind off the other stuff when I'm not in the cryptocurrencies or whatever. I do like to, watch different videos, and there's a lot of other bloggers on YouTube where you don't take my word for what I'm just sharing, but to kind of give a little background to Abe, I think this is a temporal marker from Clif High's Webbot report. He said when this stuff came out about this entertainment mogul or someone related to the entertainment industry, a lot of the problems would get ready to start. And he also gave a prediction shortly thereafter. And this seems like it's mirroring what Bo Pony has been talking about coming up potentially. And I noticed lately the price of silver and gold has been up, definitely price of silver. It just recently hit over 25 per ounce and I noticed was climbing at a steady rate, even though we're still in a retail speculative market. And we know that the powers that be have been manipulating it for a long time. I have a private source that told me many years ago, and even more recently, that they're not going to always be able to keep manipulating. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Even when I see him again, I'm gonna ask him to go into the details because I always wonder about that, how that's the case. He's more of a financial expert than I am. I have sources that are really skilled, can break the information down. And if I'm not as good in a certain expertise or certain discipline, I'll let you guys know. I'm straight up with you guys because I've been invited to different rooms on Telegram, and I try to mention I have a team of historians and people. Some people take my information as credible when it comes to the sovereignty or redemption education, but what I've learned is they'll try to poo-poo what I talk about in history or other regards or whatever, which in my opinion, I feel that's like disrespectful, but because I know I'm good at what I do as a researcher, but I have people I feel that are more qualified in these areas than I am, and they do an excellent job. And I have another friend that he can debate some of your best of the best, and he can speak over 20 languages. He studied linguistics, previous cultures. And if you haven't studied, I've found out I met a lot of these flat earth people I've discovered because I have one of my best friends separately, another friend that I know, this is a totally separate person, was into the flat earth stuff. Because I've been able to piece it together. I was wondering where this ideology of these people that I've been coming across in these Telegram rooms. I see now why a lot of them don't believe in the transatlantic slave trade. They try to poo-poo Dr. Martin Luther King and some of the recent history that took place because whoever created this flat earth ideology, whatever, it's kind of funny to me. They don't believe that we've left the planet before. They don't believe space. And I disagree with that. I'm not a flat earther at all. And I told a friend of mine I was going to do a video because I don't want you guys to think just because I touch on topics that may seem out of sight, out of mind, that I know some of the things that I touch on. I do have evidence to back up everything that I talk about. I can go more in depth, by the way, with a lot of the stuff that I go over. And I know some people say it's hard to prove evidence, but these people one of the guys was saying that he believed Elon Musk was a clone. And I was like, that's a bit extreme. When you start making accusations like that, you got to provide evidence for people. That's a bit really extreme. And you guys know I don't get into stuff like that. I don't accuse people of being clones. I even told a friend of mine, we were laughing about it. A couple of my close friends, it was so hilarious. I told him about this. The one guy called Elon Musk a clone, and my one friend said, well, cloning is not only illegal in this country, it's illegal in other countries as well. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have cloning facilities because they admitted years ago, like when they cloned Dolly the sheep or whatever, that stuff is real. You know what I'm saying? But I don't talk about or accuse entertainers of people without having hardcore evidence or ways. It just gets too esoteric to try to break the evidence of that type of stuff down. Yeah, I'm into that stuff. I mean, I'll research the reports. I like watching Ancient Aliens. My friend of mine told me about Edge of Wonder. I didn't really know about Edge of Wonder. I'm not really familiar with who they were, but I do know from a friend of mine. He says that he actually credits me with coining the term Illuminati, saying that quite a bit before it became catchy with YouTube some years ago. He says that I kind of, I touch on these things. So I see why a lot of flat earth people gravitate to me, because I was going to ask them some years ago, why is it these flat earth people gravitate to me? Is because certain elements of my ideology, I guess, seems like it's outside the norm or normal standard of what people have. But I will say the difference with me, I can provide receipts, I can provide evidence, if not evidence, I can point people into the directions. Like, remember when YouTube shut down the Pizzagate scandal? You guys remember that? I can point to books that I've read where it's been whistleblowers that have come out. Look at all the cases that have come out in the mainstream media with child ritual abuse, of sex pedophile stuff. From member Jerry Sandusky at Penn State. You guys remember that? Look at all the stuff that came out with Harvey Weinstein. Remember the guy that was a promoter for the Subway commercials that's locked up. And I heard he got assaulted while he was in prison. A member's named Jared Fogle or something like that was, they found out, was into that stuff. Remember the Hollywood sex cult Nexium? I saw a report on our local news where the actor Allison Mack was named in the report, even though our local news WXYZ Channel 7, which is under Scripps Howard, which is through ABC, controlled under Disney, because Disney owns ABC. Just to give you guys an example, how you have super conglomerate corporations. So those people, media people, local people, are reading from teleprompters. So they have to report on the difference versus independent bloggers or independent journalists. They have to report on the information. So they're not going to touch on stuff that like, look at just Jeffrey Epstein. Look at Ghislaine Maxwell, two separate people who are involved. Look at Peter Nygaard, for example, who was good friends with Oprah Winfrey. Look at that movie. What was that movie that came out not too long ago that I heard? I haven't saw it yet, but I had a relative that told me about it. I was actually surprised when the relative told me they actually saw that, because I knew about this stuff already. I just can't think of the name of that movie. And I heard that it was a family member of the Rothschild family that went on CNN that was encouraging people not to watch or check out that film, by the way, that exposed these different things. You guys help me out. What's the name of that movie, if you guys are still listening, in the chat, so I can put it in there, because I need to look it up and bookmark it, by the way. But I just wanted to explain, my stance when it came to the flat earth stuff. It's kind of funny because some of the people I debated on there, I already knew about Tataria. I saw that in this guy's profile picture. My friend, one of my friends, who I didn't understand at first. And he actually told me, because I told him I had got into a debate with another friend I used to go to college with that accused me of being a flat earther. And I told my friend, who actually does study the flat earth stuff or has shared with me, now I know what their ideology is, because this is with a friend of mine. When I would go get my car worked on and stuff, I would listen to them. I mean, I like learning. And there's some things I agree with. I do believe in Middle Earth, Agartha. I think that is real. The Admiral Byrd, the diary that he left, that his son discovered, that story can be corroborated. And we talked about some of the other beings at the North Pole or whatever. My friend kind of clarified. And he told me, literally, when I told him my other friend accused me, he said, "You can give me that label." He told me, like, straight up. He was like, that label belongs to me. He acknowledged that. So he was cool about it. So I already knew. I just started to piece together. So I was surprised. A lot of these people in these Telegram rooms, I see that they're flat earthers. That's a whole ideology. I heard they have a Comic-Con conference, because I wanted to research where that ideology came from. And I found out it came from a guy in the 1800s, a young kid. It was a guy that gave a good breakdown of it. They're generally the personality archetype of people who believe in flat earth. They're generally like indigo children or rebellious children that don't believe the norm. But I believe, me personally, I believe we left the planet. I don't believe in some things that in their ideology, I believe they mixed in certain truths with lies. Like, I don't believe the North Pole is being guarded by NASA, that people will fall off the planet because it's flat. They don't believe spaceships have left the planet at all. I believe in exoplanets. I love learning about exoplanets and starships that can go at warp speed, which I know NASA has a jet propulsion laboratory in California that is actually studying warp speed technology that can move at the speed of light. And I love watching science videos like that. And I actually took science growing up, and I met another friend of mine that's not only a historian. I have two friends that are both that are scientists and historians that have studied. And if you haven't studied certain topics, certain subjects like astronomy, if you haven't studied anthropology, you haven't studied geometry, there's a lot of factors that flat earth has been debunked 100 times over if you're a sane person. airplanes, for example. I was listening to an airplane pilot debunk flat Earth. It just doesn't make sense. Some of the stuff is foolish to me, in my opinion. But I mean, people have the right to believe what they want to believe. But I took a break from Telegram because it's like how, in one sense, the flat Earth people, they believe, they know I'm very knowledgeable and I have the expertise when it comes to sovereignty. And I've had people inbox me and message me and tell me I bring a lot to the table and I'm knowledgeable. But in one sense, they try to discredit me when I brought up the transatlantic slave trade and other things. They tried to say that we're all Indians. But I talked to some of the best experts, and that isn't necessarily true. Native American population over here, we're mixed in my ancestry. I researched my bloodline, my lineage, and there is a part of my ancestry that does come from descendants of slavery. And then there's another part that was Native American. There was different Native American nations. Like I'm connected to the Powhatan Nation, the Blackfoot Nation, the Cherokee. I also have relatives who were indentured servants during slavery times. On my Barham side, I have relatives in the Atlanta, Georgia area can corroborate. One of my great relatives on the Barham side fought in World War I, and they were descendants of slaves. So they're both. You have people don't understand. It runs both forms of history run parallel with one another. We're not all Indians. The transatlantic slave trade did exist. There's actually a group I discovered on YouTube. A friend of mine that's a historian, and this one particular group does an excellent job where they document it, is well documented in Brazil and other parts of the world from colonialism. And when they migrated and went to different parts, there's actually been apologies that was made by the Vatican, that was in the public news, and the Dutch apologized for their role in the transatlantic slave trade. And then recently, King Charles, I heard they told people when he had to visit some African country to get over it, or they denied their involvement, but there was a caste system in place. And that's where we get the word race from. Race meant a competition. Different European countries competed with one another. They were in a race, a competition, you understand. And there's a lot more. I have friends, they're more well studied in this discipline than I am, but I do know enough. I am very well studied and I do know a lot. And there's documented evidence that the transatlantic slave trade did exist. The book, and I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, by the way, and I'm also not a registered voter, but I'm a researcher. And Minister Farrakhan's Nation of Islam's Historical Research Department put out a book years ago called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. And it exposed, and he mentioned that it was well documented information. People from the Nation of Islam's Historical Research Department went to Jewish synagogues, rabbis, and libraries and used their own writings, their own teachings, by the way, meaning this is their own writings, their own words, their own documents, by the way, well documented, recorded history, by the way, and put together a book. And I had part 1 and 2. And it displays, if you haven't studied lineages, bloodlines, you need to get Fritz Springmeier's book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, where it can document the families that existed years ago that are still descendants. If you know how to research, some people tried to hide their lineages, change names and stuff like that. But if you know how to research, you can find these people that are alive. And some of the names were listed in the book that were involved in the transatlantic slave trade that were Jewish, by the way, called Caucasian Jew, that aren't, the real people that were indigenous. They converted. They were converts, by the way. So it's a lot of history, but some people, they won't, they will debate you, or it exposes a lot they don't want to reveal, because if they reveal some of this information, they would have to pay reparations out. A lot of big portion of the United States government, it's the reason why they don't support reparations. A lot of politicians, even Democrats, have covered up because it would force them to do things when they've given billions of dollars to Ukraine and claim they don't have all this money. They've given reparations to illegal immigrants. That's in Biden's own words, to foreigners, by the way. And this has been reported on. This is not my words, but they claim, they tell you there's no money for reparations, which is BS. And Robert Johnson, former billionaire owner of BET, he supports reparations, Black Entertainment Television. He sold it to Viacom. He also met at the White House several times with Trump and Dr. Ben Carson when Trump was in office. And he supports reparations and called for at least $14 trillion and reparations for the Black community, by the way, just to show there's other credible people, different backgrounds. There's a professor, historian out of Duke University or somewhere in North Carolina, I can't remember. Then you have Yvette Carnell separately, by the way, in different genres that have studied this and studied. There's well documented evidence. So I just wanted to explain what my stance is when it comes to certain things. I'm going to acknowledge some other people in the chat, then I'm going to shut things down. See, Mary Saunders says, hello, Mr. Dorsey. Thank you for joining, Mary. Michael Bapp says, kind regards to you and happy holidays to come. When are you going to have your own private VIP website or internet too, bro? Question mark. Yeah, that's a good question. That would be for a whole separate video. It's a lot to unpack right now, and I'm getting ready to shut things down at the time. Mary Saunders says, looking from the sky, the land of the earth looks flat, but it is round. Yes, obviously, I don't know what your take on it is, but I'm going to clearly, I might do a separate video. My stance is I'm not a flat earther at all, but I guess I attract a lot of people who are into that ideology because of my belief system or some of the things that I've shared. But I can back substantiate, just like these same people in these Telegram rooms of this particular group came to me, and I even got inboxes where some of them even acknowledged that I bring a lot to the table. That's what someone told me. I'm not saying everyone in there is a flat earther, but I see a lot of people who have this ideology as I studied it, and I wanted to find out where it came from, where it derived from. Because see me, I'm a thinker, I'm inquisitive. And so whoever's putting that out there, they're trying to discredit things. And it's also anti-Black. A lot of it goes against the true Black culture. So to me, it's powers that be, a certain individual's best interest to keep people divided, that don't want people knowing the real actual truth. By the way, they want to keep people deceived and not the real information. I do believe in grievances and restitution needs to be addressed. But I'm not necessarily into the grievance culture, everything's victimhood. But at the same time, I do believe just like when someone gets into a car accident, there's a form of, and they say it's that person's fault. That's where you have car insurance to pay restitution to that other person, a party that's involved, that was damaged by the harm that was caused. By the way, that's the example that I use. So I'm gonna shut things down. Lastly, Eggeria says, don't forget to watch Dumb Money, the GameStop story. Okay, thank you. Well, that's my video, guys. So the major temporal markers, I think it has something to do with Sean Diddy Combs. By the way, Clif High's Webbot report. The title of this video was Major Temporal Marker for Webbot Hit from Clif High's Alta report has been hit. In my opinion, I think this has to do with the mogul. And he even made mention down the road, and this was kind of scary, that I was listening to DJ Academics earlier, and he was saying in a previous video that he was concerned about Diddy's health. And, that's been a big thing, especially amongst the grievance industry, mental health and well-being. And he was saying when he mentioned he was concerned about his health, Clif High did say that this particular mogul, whoever they were, that before the problems were going to start, his data sets were showing that someone in the entertainment industry, that they were eventually going to commit suicide or something. So it's something to be concerned about. Hope that doesn't happen. Sometimes the data sets, have been vague about the language or whatever, or hasn't been always on target, but it's been real good information. Like, we know those predictions, a lot of them have come to pass. JSnip4 would give like updates if you're familiar with his channel. So this is the first time I've ever done anything, but I think this is a major temporal marker for a Webbot hit from Clif High's Alta report. That's what's going on. If you have your eyeglasses on, what's happening with the entertainer Diddy, and they've been coming down hard. So I hear that Macy severed ties to his clothing line, Sean John. Certain other artists at the Grammy Awards said they don't want to be seated by him, so he may be disinvited, which I heard that could potentially be a lawsuit, by the way, but they may be doing it a different way because other artists have said they don't want to be seated next to him. A charter school out of Bronx, New York, I heard, just severed ties. Diddy just stepped down as chairman of Revolt, and some lady who did a podcast over there said that because of the accusations when it came out, even though the suit was settled, that she would be moving her podcast off that platform. By the way, that there was reports that also came out. So if you guys, there's a lot of other vloggers, people on YouTube that have been talking about this, but I just wanted to get my weigh in, my heads up. I think this is a major temporal marker, a web by hit that's been hit from Clif High's Alta report, and some other things are coming down the road. This remains to be seen. So keep your eyeglasses on, pay attention, and real legends never die. They live in our hearts. The marathon will continue. Until next time, guys, everybody have a blessed, wonderful night. Take care. Peace.